A little game in Oakland you were referring to earlier. The math is simple for the Warriors. They need to win their final 4 games to get to 73 wins and break the 95-96 Bulls record. With a win tonight versus Skip's Spurs, they will clinch home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Huge. The Warriors have lost 2 of their last 3 at home after starting the season winning the first 36. The Spurs usually rest their starters, as we know, down the stretch. Stephen A., what do you expect from Greg Popovich tonight in terms of that?
They're on the road at the Oracle. It would not surprise me at all if Greg Popovich rested his players. I'm not saying they won't start, but there won't be a priority to go all out for this game amongst the starters. Whether it's Kawhi, LaMarcus, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, obviously with Manu coming off the bench, that too. I think that the level of urgency that you put forth in order to win a game like this normally is not going to be applicable to Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. The number 2 seed is already locked up, not to mention the fact that, again, they're away from home, so it's not their home streak at stake, even though I don't think that matters to Popovich either. Combine that with the fact that the guys need all the rest that they can get because you got to get set for a playoff run. You also have to anticipate that since they're the 2 seed and Oklahoma City is locked in at the 3 seed, that you're going to have to go up against OKC after you deal with what you deal with in the first round. And I think that all is going to lend itself towards you deciding that you're going to rest these players. And keep in mind, I think Dallas right now is like the 7th seed. So you're talking about possibly facing Dallas in the first round, which is going to be no cakewalk because Rick Carlisle and the Dallas Mavericks know how to play against San Antonio. They'll lose, but that doesn't mean it won't be highly contested and highly competitive. All of those things being considered, before you can even think about getting the Golden State Warriors, you have to go through Dallas and OKC in all likelihood. I think Popovich is more cognizant of that than any of us, and I think as a result, a game like this will not be the priority we would have hoped it would be, and as a result, I don't anticipate he's going to go all out.
So you think rest every starter, or?
I'm not sure about every starter, but I think that he's going to rest a few guys, and not only that, nobody is going to get a huge chunk of minutes in terms of his major players.
Okay. Here's the truth of this. It's highly possible that as we speak right now, Greg Popovich isn't sure what he's going to do tonight. A lot of times, I think he waits until the last second, even though the league has pressured him to come clean with it beforehand for the sake of the customers. But I spoke to my sources in San Antonio last night. Nobody has any idea what he is going to do. He is his own man, and sometimes he revels in doing exactly the opposite of what we all think that he might do.
Yep.
But here's my educated guess on this. I believe he will rest the older big 3. Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker. I think they won't play tonight because, remember, they're back-to-back tomorrow night at Denver. And he has to have somebody to play tomorrow night. I do think he'll play, and this is just a guess, the new 2, as I call them, LaMarcus and Kawhi. I think they'll play tonight and probably play a little bit tomorrow night. But here's the point. Golden State then has to play on Saturday night ahead of the next game with Golden State and San Antonio at San Antonio on Sunday night. I believe Pop will play everybody all out in one final big scrimmage, if you will, leading up to the playoffs, sort of a prep game for the playoffs on Sunday night, and try to win that game at home, which would push them all the way to 40-0 at home for this regular season. So my point is, tonight, I think it'll be interesting because if say 3 starters or 3 key players don't play for the Spurs, all the pressure is on the home team. They have been struggling at home. Obviously, they lost to Boston Friday night, and then they lost to Minnesota the other night. And I think the Spurs will be able to hang in for a while and at least make them uncomfortable. But I think in the end, Golden State will pull away. I'm going to call it like 114-98. But I want to point out one thing that's starting to come clear. I'm starting to see some flaws in Golden State that I believe the Spurs are now seeing. They live and die with a 3-point shot to cover up their flaws. As long as they're making 40+%, maybe 50% of their threes, then we don't notice that they're 20th in points allowed this year. 20th. That's not very good. They're 25th in turning the ball over. And obviously against Minnesota the other night, where they have 23 turnovers, it kept Minnesota in the game. So those get covered up when they make their threes. So here's the stat. They've lost 9 games so far. It's remarkable. In those 9 games, they've shot 33% from 3. In their 69 wins, they've shot 43% from three. It's as simple as that. If they make 40+, you're probably going to be in trouble and you're probably going to lose. If they make 33%, which is mortal and human like most teams, or it's even a little below normal actually, then there's a probability that they're going to lose that game because defensively, they're giving up 10 more points a game in their losses, 113 points a game they allow. And by the way, they only have averaged 99 points a game in their 9 losses. And 5 times they've been held under 100 because they're not making their three-point shots. So is it defending the three? Is it hands up on Steph and Clay? Or is it just, as you well know, some nights the ball just doesn't go in from that far out, right? And you can't explain it? Well, that's the way to beat Golden State. Live, die, three-point shot. Either they go in or they don't go in. If they do, they win. If they don't, they have 9 losses because
But we've all known that, Skip. The thing is, can you stop it? Because with Steph Curry, see, what makes Steph Curry so special is not that it's not just his ability to shoot. It's ability it's his ability to create his own shot, to get his shot off. And when the shot is falling, it's falling. Same thing with Klay Thompson, not in terms of dribbling the basketball to get a shot. But Klay Thompson is very, very good playing with his back to the basket and posting up smaller players.
He's terrific.
And taking advantage of them, not to mention spotting up and shooting from three. If they're not making their shots, anybody can beat them. There's no question about that. The problem is they're usually making their shots.
Okay.
And so now what you have, it really comes down to a very, very simple question. Can you stop Golden State? Can you stop them? And I'm of the mindset, no. I don't think anybody can. You don't stop marksmen like that because Steph Curry knows how to get fouled. He knows how to get to the free throw line. So does Klay Thompson. And they both hit their free throws. And they both hit shots from the perimeter. So it's just, again, I understand where you're coming from. And there is no doubt that when you look at Oklahoma City, San Antonio, to a lesser degree, the Clippers, if you're talking about conventional basketball and somehow being able to neutralize Clay and Steph, all of those teams could beat Golden State. The problem is, what's the chance of that happening?
Okay, but I'm going to remind you, my Spurs are #1 in defense and points allowed. I'm going to say it again. Golden State is 20th. Golden State is 25th in turning the ball over. That's not very good. 20th and 25th, that's a recipe for disaster unless you're making all your threes.
But take into account the amount of times they've played in garbage time, playing around, running people out of the gym, taking shots that you otherwise would ill-advise them to take. All of these different things come into the fray when you're dominant, when you're running away, when you're playing around because you can do what you want, when you want, how you want. I could sit up there and be up 30, but then I start dancing around and playing around and jacking up shots or throwing ill-advised passes, playing around.
Like they did when they were up 17 on Minnesota the other night in the third quarter?
Well, really? Is that where you're going to go?
No, I'm just
saying. They're 69-8. So that's where you're going to go?
Well, that's how they lost that game.
You're going to give me one of 8 games?
Behind his back,
you're going to give me one of 8 games? They're 69-8.
I just told you. What have we been? What have we been complaining about?
They're about to be 70-8.
We've been saying that the season's over. We got to award the trophy to Golden State. I'm telling you right now,
you
I
haven't
got
said
hope.
that. You haven't said that. No, you said originally when they blew your Spurs out. But then after you saw the Spurs beat them and you've seen the way they played as of late, you've changed.
I just said there are flaws that you can take advantage of these in playoff games. If they're that bad on defense and they do turn the ball over, trust me, that will come back to bite you when it counts.
But I'm saying to you, there have always been flaws with Golden State. The difference is that, again, they're such an offensive juggernaut that it's a given. You're going to ultimately take chances and play around. Now, defensively, I get where you're coming from because what you're saying is you can score on them. Guess what, Skip? You can score on Golden State. But here's the problem. If you're playing at their pace, you will lose because threes outscore twos. So it's not about scoring on them. It's about the pace you play while scoring on them.
Obviously.
If you slow it down and score on them, that's different. But if you run with them and you're scoring, guess what? It means nothing.
Okay,
they want you to do that.
When San Antonio got blown out at Golden State the last time, they played their fastest pace game of the year. And in San Antonio, it was the slowest pace game of Golden State's year.
Iguodala and Bogut didn't play.
Okay. Neither did Tim Duncan. Boris Diaw started.
Well, that was Pop's choice.
Okay.
Because Tim Duncan could have played.
Boris Diaw's out tonight, so that's okay, just for the record.
I know it's the Warriors tonight, and it's a different deal, but the Spurs are 38-8 when all top 5 players play, and they're 7-1 when 3 or fewer play. So they're still good when they're resting their players. But yes, it is Golden State. The Masters are underway. Can golf thrive without Tiger Woods, though? That is the question. We'll get into that after the break. Stay with us. Just getting started here on First Take.